51 degrees, 18 minutes north, 29 degrees, 43 minutes east. That coordinate was carved into the last page of a journal found on an abandoned cargo ship. A ship that had been sitting in an industrial port for 15 years. No incident report, no explanation, no crew, just silence. My name is Grant, and I've been inside places that would make most people turn around at the door. Decommissioned asylums, collapsed mine shafts, houses where entire families disappeared, and nobody ever explained why. I document abandoned places for a living. I've done this for 9 years. I don't scare easily. I'm telling you this not to impress you, but because I need you to understand what it means when I say the SS Helena Maris was different. Not because of what I saw inside, because of what I heard, and because of what heard me back. The ship has been sitting in the old industrial port for 15 years. Everyone local knows it. Nobody goes near it after dark. The stories change depending on who you ask. Lights flickering inside, sounds coming from the lower decks, someone's cousin who went in on a dare and came back wrong. I never believed any of that. The Helena Maris was a cargo vessel, medium tonnage, built in the early 90s, last registered under a shell company that dissolved 6 months after the ship went dark. No incident report, no official explanation for why it was abandoned mid-route with the crew's personal belongings still on board. Just silence, 15 years of it. I stepped onto the gangway at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. The moment my weight hit the metal, the port felt further away than it should have. The air around the hull was colder than the air 10 feet behind me. Not slightly colder. Measurably, noticeably colder, like stepping into a shadow that had been sitting in the same spot for a very long time. I told myself it was the water, the thermal effect of the hull against the night air. I kept walking. The smell hit me at the top of the gangway. Salt, mold, and something underneath both of those, something I couldn't name. Not rot exactly. Rot has a direction to it, a sense of something moving toward decay. This was different. This smelled like something that had already arrived somewhere and stopped. The deck was wrong before I even raised my flashlight. Work gloves, a dented coffee mug sitting upright against a railing, like someone set it down to check something and plan to come back. A child's toy truck, red, wedged between 2 cleats near the bow. On a cargo vessel. Cargo ships don't carry children. At the time, I thought the toy truck was the strangest thing I would find on that ship. I was wrong. Ooh. The crew quarters were below the main deck. 4 bunks per room. Personal items still on the shelves. Paperback books, a framed photograph, a shaving kit opened on a small metal desk. Whatever happened on this ship, the crew did not pack before they left. That's when I saw the walls. Every surface, the walls, the underside of the upper bunks, the back of the door, covered in scratches, deep ones. Carved into the metal was something narrow and hard, worked over multiple sessions by the depth and layering of the marks. Some were vertical, some horizontal, some were spiraling, overlapping patterns of frantic repetition. The kind of marks that take hours to make. The kind that require both hands. The kind you make when you've lost track of time. I found the journal on the bottom bunk. Most of it was illegible. Water damage, ink bleed, pages fused together at the edges. I could make out fragments, shift schedules, complaints about the food. A note about engine pressure running low. The last coherent entry read, "This isn't mechanical. The sounds are coming from the hold." Whoever reads this, don't open the manifest. Don't read what we were carrying, just get off the ship. The final page had only one thing written on it, a coordinate, pressed so hard into the paper that it tore through the page beneath. Coordinates show up in strange places: journals, walls, navigation charts, quiet numbers marking locations where something happened, or where something is still happening. 51 degrees, 18 minutes north. 29 degrees, 43 minutes east. I looked it up later. I wish I hadn't. And it wasn't the only coordinate. I moved forward through the ship. The galley looked like it had been frozen mid-sentence. Pots on the stove, bowls half filled with something dried into the ceramic. Chairs knocked over in a pattern, not scattered randomly, but tipped in the same direction, toward the door, like everyone at the table stood up at once and moved toward the same thing. The walk-in freezer at the back of the galley was chained shut from the outside. 3 padlocks, all rusted in place. The chain was looped through the handle multiple times, not locked exactly, more like wrapped, like whoever did it was less concerned with keeping something in than with making sure the door couldn't swing open on its own. I didn't touch it. The engine room was at the bottom of a narrow stairwell that felt narrower on the way down than it had looked from the top. The temperature dropped the moment I crossed the threshold. My breath turned white. The room was chaos. Tools scattered, cables rerouted in configurations that didn't match any engine layout I'd seen documented. Pipes had been moved. Some were capped with material that wasn't standard, wrapped in cloth, sealed with what looked like silicone applied by hand in the dark. Someone had attempted something in this room, not a repair, something else. That's when I heard it, tapping, soft, irregular, metal on metal, somewhere below and to the left. I stopped breathing and listened. For a moment, I thought it had stopped. Then it tapped again. It continued for 11 seconds. I counted, then stopped completely. I told myself it was a loose chain, water finding its level somewhere in the bilge, the natural sound of old metal adjusting to temperature changes. I moved toward the cargo hold. The hold was large enough that my flashlight didn't reach the far wall. Shipping containers, 12 of them, stacked in 2 rows. Most were open. Some had toppled. The ones that were still standing had their doors ajar, contents spilled or missing entirely. I walked the rows slowly, checking each one. Empty. Empty. Boxes of machine parts. Empty. Then the 5th container stopped me. The dents were on the inside of the walls. Repeated, sustained, concentrated in the same place, about 5 feet off the floor. Exactly the height where a person would brace their shoulders if they were trying to push through steel. Not impact marks, pressure from something pushing outward. Both walls had them. The back panel, too. The metal had bowed outward slightly, like something inside had leaned against it again and again for hours or days. And the scratches, same pattern as the crew quarters, but deeper. The grooves had cut through the paint and into the raw steel beneath. Some had been carved over older marks, widening them, deepening them. Whoever or whatever made them had kept going long after the metal should have stopped yielding. I stepped closer. The air inside the container was colder than the rest of the hold. I raised my flashlight and aimed it at the back wall. The beam shook slightly in my hand, and that was when every instinct I had developed over 9 years of doing this spoke at the same time. The bridge, find the bridge, then leave. That's when the tapping started again. This time it was rhythmic. 3 taps, Pause. 3 taps, coming from beneath the floor of the hold. I turned my flashlight off. In the dark, it was louder. I turned it back on and walked toward the stairs without running. I focused on my breathing. I focused on the sound of my own footsteps. The tapping tracked me across the hold. It stayed directly below me as I moved, adjusting, following, until my foot hit the bottom stair. Then it stopped, instantly. The stairwell to the bridge was filled with debris, broken glass, scattered medical supplies, bandages rolled out and left on the steps. Some still had dark staining on them, old, but not 15 years old. I kept moving. The bridge itself was a wreck of navigation charts. Red ink everywhere, course corrections, circled coordinates, lines drawn and redrawn across the same stretch of open ocean. The ship had been changing direction repeatedly over a period of days, not drifting, choosing. One door off the bridge was locked, the captain's cabin. I forced it with a pry bar. The photographs were the last thing I looked at. 12 crew members standing on the deck in daylight. I checked the manifest printed on the chart table. 14 names. 2 people were missing from that photograph. 2 people who should have been there. 2 people who weren't. That's when the tapping started again, directly beneath my feet. Slow, deliberate. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. I backed toward the door. The tapping adjusted, still beneath me, still tracking. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. I reached the door frame. 3 taps. Pause. Silence. I walked to the gangway without stopping. I stepped off onto the dock. Behind me, from somewhere deep in the ship, 3 taps. Then silence. I know the difference between random noise and pattern, and that sound wasn't random. It wasn't mechanical. It was counting. 3 taps. Every time, precise, measured, patient. I don't know what it was counting, but I know one thing. The last set of taps came after my foot hit the dock, which means whatever was beneath that ship wasn't counting inside the hull anymore. It was counting me.
Places disappear, ships sink, people vanish, but coordinates stay. Quiet numbers left behind on maps, and sometimes they show up more than once. And when the same coordinate appears twice, it usually means someone didn't leave, or something didn't. This is Whispers from the Dark,